Hello again, everyone. Deflect here, Firm but Fair Gaming. Want to bring you a new video. This is going to be a tier list for range DPS so far in Dragonflight. This is 10.27, and we're going to go through to see where everyone is sitting. Now, there's a couple different metrics I use for this. It is unfortunately, the range list wouldn't let me reset it all, so this is what it's going to be. We're going to start them in F. But I'm going to use a little bit of their score with a little bit of their, a little bit of their DPS stats, and we're going to go from there to get you a tier list. Because if you strictly go by their score, it's here's your tier list. This is the scores. This is what you get. This isn't updated fully yet because it only updates so often. But this is technically not the best representation, I don't think. For me personally, this is how I'm going to rank it. So you can see if you go to DPS and you go to range DPS and you go to keys, 15 and above, you can see where it's kind of sitting. Both Evoker specs are doing very well. Shadow Priest is doing well. Very small representation in Hunter. Mages are doing well. Warlocks are doing well. And Balance is, small representation along with Shaman. Which you would think that there would be a big gap between these three. When that's not entirely the case. And I'm not sure why they're not running it yet. I don't know. But I'm going to show you a little something that's really neat. And it's going to change a little bit of the ranking of the tier list. Now, we'll start with Boomkin. And Boomkin is doing well. When this came out, Boomkin was actually 3,200. And it's doing pretty well. But a lot of people, the damage is good. But I'm going to put it bottom A. Like bottom because Resto Druid is the healer. So Resto Druid is the healer. That's why Boomkin, they switch into Boomkin for like first boss. And then they'll go out and, reset and come back as Resto. That's why you can see a lot of the top runs will have it will have just a resto coming up. Oh, sorry, I already clicked on there. You'll see that's balance here and it's no resto here. That's just because I went in, did a boss, and then came back out and swapped. So some of the bosses you don't need healing as much, and they can off heal, but some of the bosses you do. So they'll swap out of balance and go back in, or they'll do the first couple pulls as balance, jump out, go back in. So that I'm gonna put it bottom A. Marksman, this is going to be the huge controversy if you're a hunter. You controversy all you want. But the reasoning, I'm going to do Marksman and Beastmaster together. Because Marksman is good. I'm still putting it at B tier. Even though they say it does more damage than Beastmaster, which I don't believe, but hey, it might. Beastmaster does it all on the move, so you never have to stop. You never have to worry about missing anything. And you can see the highest key they've done is a 16 when this came out. Beastmaster was an 18, but they do more damage. I'm still putting the Marksman in B for the sole reason that Beastmaster can do all their damage on the move. And everyone's going to argue that it's not an A tier spec. Here is my argument for it being an A tier spec. This is a 17 Noke. This has an Augment. This has a Shadow Priest. This has a Beastmaster. Beastmaster above the Shadow Priest. They're all roughly the same gear score, so that really wouldn't come into play. If you don't like that example, another Beastmaster, Shadow Priest. Oh, another Beastmaster. You could say, hey, the Beastmaster's playing really well. He's getting 100 parse. Okay, so we could even argue that the Augment Evoker is causing that. Here's one where the Shadow Priest actually beat the Beastmaster. But if your argument is that these all have an Augment and they're all buffing the Beastmaster and it's not buffing it right and calculating the right damage, I can respect that. Here's one done with one of the top Evokers in the game, Lizzie McGuire. Beastmaster still 110 above in Academy, which the first polls will be that way. But I do have a log with a Beastmaster, a Warrior, and a Shadow Priest. All at the same gear score, Beastmaster, and this is a Ruby Life Pool. This was done way early on, so that's why it's only a 13. But the Beastmaster, 200k DPS above the other ones. 200. Like, that's not a little amount of damage more. That's a whole lot more. Now, your argument could be, hey, it was a lower key. They just pump out their damage quicker. Yes, that could be true about the Shadow Priest, but not really about the Fury Warrior because they really pump out. And then in relative to the Marksmanship Hunter, the Beastmaster damage is about 40 or 50k, I find on average, with the players higher. So, that being said, that's my argument for Beastmaster being ahead. That's where I'm putting it. Devastation Evoker. Devastation Evoker is doing some huge damage. It's doing very well. But problem with Devastation Evoker is Devastation's still in, B tier here. That's because they separated this. Devastation Evoker is going to be A tier, but it's A tier not because of the damage. It's A tier because augmentation exists. And because augmentation exists, it will be A tier, not S tier or above. Arcane Mage. Arcane Mage is okay, but Arcane Mage is going in B. Arcane Mage is, they're doing well. Like they do good damage. They do all the mage things. They're pretty good. But they run into the problem same as Devastation Evoker runs into. There's just better mage specs to play. And that's just where they're going to sit because the other two mage specs are just doing more than what they're doing. Affliction Warlock, you can just put it down here. It's right after the buff. It still sucks. It's still just... It can do good keys, don't get me wrong. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but they're just not up to where the other Warlocks are. So it's down here. It's actually very close for IO as demo lock, which is funny, but it just nobody takes it due to the lack of basically knowledge of people. It's very, very good in certain keys. Certain keys it can really crank out the damage, but overall, you'll just take other Warlock specs because they are better. Frost Mage, S tier. Don't even have to worry about that. They are just S tier. They're very good. Frost Mage is pumping very well. They do damage, and they do it differently than Fire, and AoE pulls are very good for Frost. They've just been cranking right now. Demo Lock. Demo Lock because of Destro. Demo Lock's still great. That's the problem. Demo Lock is still good, and it should either be, I guess, right around Boomkin or just above Marksman. I'm going to put it just above Marksman. It's still a very good spec, so don't mind the B tier for it. It still does a lot of damage. It's just everyone basically is playing Destro in the higher keys because it is huge, huge AoE damage. Enhancement Shaman. Like, as you can see here, Enhancement Shaman is very good. They have one of the quickest kicks in the game. They have, they do great damage right now. I am going to put it below Boomkin. I know I said Boomkin would be bottom A tier because Resto exists, which I'm going to put Shaman just above Boomkin. Great damage profile. They do damage quite well. The problem is they are a little squishy like Boomkin. You could say that about Beastmaster Hunter. Now sorry, I forgot to say, here's my argument against Beastmaster Hunter as well. They could get the Fire Act Trinket and be hugely tankier and only lose about 2% DPS. So that is a massive thing for Beastmaster, which they aren't running yet. But they could get the Fire Act Trinket, which would get rid of a lot of their squishiness problems. So they might even climb even quicker. But Fire Mage is going to be S tier as well. They're just really good. Fire Mage is S tier. And they're cranking. I'm going to put them behind Frost because Frost is just a bit better. I think. Anyway, Fire Mage might have a better IO, but Frost is very close, and I think they do a little bit better. And if you really choose, you could choose the double Ice Block immunity, which you will lose damage, but at some point in higher keys might be necessary. So I'm going to use that argument to keep Frost a little bit ahead. Destrolock. Destrolock I'm putting at the bottom of S tier. They are very well. Their AoE is outstanding. They can do great damage. But they are just lacking a little bit behind on just ever so slightly. Just so slightly on the IO, but they are still cranking. Their damage is just nutty, and they got a single target buff. So they're going S tier. Shadow Priest is S tier. It's going ahead of them all. It is doing great damage. Again, knew this was going to happen. We were, you knew it was going to be a caster comp this season, and it's because just everything works together. Basically, the casters all run together. This is the same thing as season 2, which I knew was going to happen. So you can see it coming with all their tier sets. Everyone thought their tier sets were nerfed, and it's not going to matter. You know, they're not going to be as dominant, but it looks to be they are. So Shadow Priest, great damage profile. They got their tier set back. Their tier set, when I simmed it, at about 10 to 12% damage on top when I was simming my Shadow Priest. So it's the tier set is just nuts. Very good spec to play right now. But in high keys and the reigning champion in the S tier, Og is back. It's further survivability, especially when you're running caster comps. Og still gives great survivability, great utility, and just when you're pushing those higher keys, the Og Evoker just helps out, helps you survive, and they buff the tank and healer, so the tank can pull more, the healer can heal more. It is what it is with Og again. And they got the legendary back, so they are just top of the S tier. As you can see, I'm pretty sure they have the highest IO out of everyone by almost 100. It is just the spec to be again, up until this gets changed, nerf, or other specs can do what they do. This is probably going to be up there for the highest of keys because of the survivability it brings. That's strictly why they're there. Their damage is decent, but it's not. If you brought Shadow Priest, Mage, Destrolock, you would do a fantastic damage, and it would probably be, I would say, 100 or 150k more DPS than the Og Evoker. And you can see some keys here. Og is 320, well, this is 375, so it's 150k DPS difference between that and the Beastmaster. But you lose all that survivability that the augment brings. So when you bring classes that are cloth casters, you need a little more survivability, and that's what they do. They fill the gap with. So this is the range tier list. All specs are doing very decent. It's hard to see right away, but it is going to be, I think, the caster season, like I said before in my previous tier list. And this is what it's going to shape up to be. I don't foresee this changing much throughout the season, but I will keep an eye on it and keep you updated. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Like, share, subscribe. Deflect, Firm but Fair Gaming. We'll see you in the next video.